Ever get that feeling where you're wrestling with a big decision or, just trying to figure out what you really want out of life and it all feels a bit murky?
Oh, definitely. Like you're searching for that clear inner voice, but mostly just hearing static.
Exactly. That's static. It's such a common thing, isn't it? That feeling of needing clarity.
It really is. It seems like it's just part of the human journey, navigating all that complexity.
Well, in this deep dive, we're going to explore some ideas that might just help cut through some of that noise.
Okay.
We've spent time with a really insightful conversation between the spiritual teacher Thầy Minh Niệm and Thầy Minh. They were answering questions from their audience, real everyday questions about navigating life.
Ah, so direct Q&A stuff. That's usually quite practical.
Yeah, exactly. The original discussion is on YouTube if you want the full context. It's called Haidap Kun Thầy Minh Niệm Thầy Minh Thầy Minh Niệm Ban Tan 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 on the etc. channel.
Right. And what's valuable about this Q&A, I think, is how it tackles those really core human concerns, understanding ourselves, figuring out what actually matters to us,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately, finding a more grounded, maybe more peaceful way to just be in the world.
Yeah, totally. Our goal here is really to pull out the most useful nuggets from that exchange, specifically for you if you're maybe looking for a bit more direction or just a fresh perspective.
Makes sense.
They covered so much from telling the difference between like a genuine gut feeling and just, I don't know, laziness.
Huh, yeah, that's a tricky one.
Right. To understanding your own unique value and how to balance being content with still wanting to grow. Lots of ground, so ready to dive in.
Absolutely. Let's start with that first one, intuition. It's often so confusing.
Yeah.
How can you tell if that instinct is genuinely guiding you or if it's just, I don't know, a passing emotion, maybe even, like you said, wanting the easy way out?
It's such a common trap, isn't it? Thinking a whim is wisdom. Yeah, one of the key things they brought up was that intuition isn't some like perfect internal GPS.
Right. It's not always right.
Not at all. And you definitely shouldn't just follow every single urge blindly.
No. They really emphasize cultivating what they called atum tam, which roughly it translates to inner stillness
Yeah.
or a kind of mental clarity.
Okay, inner stillness.
Yeah, things like taking a quiet walk or just finding moments for peaceful reflection. Those practices can help create the space you need to really listen beyond the surface chatter.
It's like letting the mud settle in water so you can see clearly.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay,
It's-
you intentionally create that calm space inside. Then, when you have an urge to do something or not do something, the next step is to really look at it, examine it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what's the real reason behind this feeling? Is it truly aligned with your values where you genuinely want to go?
Mm.
Or is it maybe rooted in something like fear or avoidance or just, putting things off? They even pointed out that sometimes what we call intuition could actually lead to negative stuff, like consistently avoiding work and then ending up feeling depressed. That's a crucial distinction.
It really is. Sometimes that gut feeling is just self-sabotage wearing a disguise.
Yeah.
So, okay, what if you've done that? You've found some stillness, you've dug a bit deeper, but you're still not sure if it's the real deal.
Well, the conversation offered a pretty practical alternative. Seeking advice from wise people you trust.
Ah, getting an outside view.
Yeah, sometimes someone else's perspective, based on their own experience and insight, can give you that clarity you just can't quite reach on your own. It's like getting a second opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
For something important.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's about tuning in, definitely, but also being open to guidance when you need it. Okay, now let's talk about desires. Those things we want. How do we figure out if wanting something will truly bring fulfillment or if it's just, wanting what the person next door has?
Yes.
Yeah.
The classic genuine aspiration versus just keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
They talked about deuterium, which is basically about our life experiences, the depth and breadth of them.
Okay.
Ideally, as we go through life, we learn through experience what really nourishes us versus what just looks good on the surface.
Like learning the difference between craving junk food and actually needing nutrients.
Exactly. Experience helps us filter those desires based on what's actually meaningful and maybe sustainable for us.
Okay, so experience is one filter. Is there another way to evaluate a desire, maybe more in the moment?
Yes, they introduce this idea of muktantuk, which is like our level of mindful awareness, or even simpler, just inner peace. Binnen.
Inner peace again.
It keeps coming back. The idea is that a desire that truly aligns with your deeper path, it'll likely feel more achievable, more harmonious even right now, especially if you have that heightened awareness.
Ah, so there's a feeling of inner alignment. It resonates somehow.
Yes, exactly. It feels like it fits with your core. Whereas if a desire feels like a constant struggle or it creates a lot of internal conflict,
Then maybe it's not the right path for you.
perhaps not. They stressed analyzing what a desire ultimately serves. Is it connected to your fundamental life goals, your core values, the things that really define you?
Or is it just a fleeting thing, driven by trends or comparing yourself to others?
Precisely. And again, that clarity, it tends to emerge from a calm, peaceful inner state.
Inner peace really does seem foundational, doesn't it, for making good decisions about actions, about wants. Okay, well, let's shift gears a bit. We run into these very conventional ideas of success all the time. You know, the big house, the fancy car, the high status job.
The standard checklist.
Yeah, but what if those things just don't really click for you personally?
This is where the conversation got really interesting, I thought. They challenged those traditional definitions. They suggested we need to define success in much more personal ways, maybe even unconventional internal ways, ways that truly reflect what gives us meaning.
I really like some of the everyday examples they use, like preparing a cup of tea with genuine care. Or having a truly present, meaningful conversation. Or just creating a peaceful, happy vibe in your home. Or cooking a meal mindfully.
Things that definitely don't show up on a performance review.
Not at all. But they absolutely add up to a life well lived.
And their point was that consistently achieving these smaller internal successes actually builds a really strong foundation for maybe bigger accomplishments down the line.
How so?
It's about cultivating self-mastery first. Learning to manage emotions, being reliable, developing good character, that's kind of the prerequisite for any external success you might want.
Like learning basic chords before you tackle a complex song.
Exactly. It's that principle of from the inside out to trong ra goai. Inner peace, self-discipline, they create a more harmonious outer reality and a more authentic sense of success defined on your own terms.
Okay, so we redefine success in a way that feels true, focus on those small, meaningful wins. But what about looking ahead? How do we balance being really present, living in the moment, with also having longer-term goals? It can feel like a conflict sometimes.
It really can feel like pulling in two directions. But they suggested it's not necessarily either.
Oh.
We can, and maybe we should, aim for both. Living each day fully, with intention, that can be a primary goal in itself. While also keeping broader hopes in mind for different life stages.
Like enjoying the walk you're on right now, but still knowing the general direction you're heading.
Precisely. It's not about sacrificing today for some imaginary tomorrow. It's about living this day well as a key objective, while still having a general sense of where you'd like to end up.
Okay.
They shared a personal approach, basically living each day with authenticity and purpose, and acknowledging that, look, reaching those bigger goals often involves things outside our control, right?
True. Lots of variables.
So focusing energy on the present, acting with integrity, with mindfulness, right now that's actually the most effective approach.
Because a strong, intentional present, they argued, naturally sets up a better future, building that solid foundation day by day.
You got it.
Okay, now let's tackle those habits. Those really deep-rooted ones, the ones that feel almost impossible to shake.
Ah, the old habits die hard belief.
Yeah.
Yeah. The conversation definitely acknowledged how challenging that is. Breaking long-standing patterns isn't easy,
But
they were very clear. Change is absolutely possible. With the right mindset, the right approach, and, persistence.
that's good news, especially if you're stuck in a rut. So where do you even begin with those kinds of habits?
They suggested starting small. Really small, manageable adjustments, like maybe just waking up 15 minutes earlier consistently. That alone can create a positive ripple effect.
Okay, small wins build momentum.
Exactly. And for bigger shifts, they really highlighted the value of supportive environments. Think retreats or communities where personal growth is kind of the focus.
Like immersing yourself in a new language, it's easier with others.
That's a great analogy. Being surrounded by positive influences and structures can make a huge difference. It's often way easier than trying to go it alone in isolation.
Makes sense.
And they also brought in that Buddhist concept of impermanence.
Ah, right. Everything changes.
Nothing is fixed. Nothing is static. Everything is always in flux, which means, logically, the potential for personal change is always there.
So even the most ingrained habit isn't truly permanent.
According to that view, no. And they shared a really personal story about overcoming profound suffering, which kind of powerfully illustrates that potential for deep transformation within us.
That personal touch really helps, doesn't it? Makes it feel less theoretical. Okay, another one that can feel like a paradox. Balancing contentment, that idea of beat up, with still wanting to grow and improve. How do those fit together?
Yeah, that's a subtle but really important point. They clarified that being knowing enough or contentment, it doesn't mean just stopping all effort. It doesn't mean becoming stagnant or giving up aspirations.
Okay, so what does it mean then?
It's more about finding a sense of satisfaction with your fundamental needs being met with what you currently have. And that feeling of okayness, it actually frees you up.
Frees you up how?
It frees up energy and attention to focus on contributing to others, to society, in a meaningful way. Because you're not constantly driven by a sense of personal lack.
Ah, I see. So it's not about settling for less in your own growth, but finding peace so that you can direct energy outwards.
Exactly. The speakers shared their own experience, feeling they had reached a level of contentment with personal needs, which now allows them to focus on helping others. They emphasize that when you're not constantly chasing the next material thing,
You have more bandwidth.
yeah, more time, more energy to explore deeper values, deeper experiences in life, things that maybe money can't buy.
Which makes sense. If you're always striving for the next bigger, better thing, you might just miss out on the richer, non-material stuff that truly fulfills you.
Precisely. They contrasted this with people caught in that cycle, always chasing more wealth, never feeling quite satisfied, and potentially missing out on those profound life experiences as a result.
Hmm.
This led to the idea of kaifong, which is like a liberation or expansion of awareness. And this broader awareness helps you see the value in both things, personal contentment and contributing to something bigger than yourself.
It's about realizing fulfillment comes from a wider lens than just accumulation. Okay. Let's shift to some heavier feelings now. Things like fear or feeling adrift, lacking purpose. What guidance came up for navigating those really tough states?
They suggested something quite radical, actually. A temporary but significant change of environment.
Like, just leave.
Essentially, yes. Stepping away from your usual routines, your usual stressors, and spending time somewhere peaceful, somewhere in nature, maybe the countryside or the mountains.
Why? What's the thinking behind that?
The idea is that when we're feeling really overwhelmed or lost, our minds can get overloaded, depleted even. And that state obscures our inner clarity, our positive perspectives.
So it's like our inner landscape gets foggy.
Exactly. Getting away gives you a chance to refresh, to reset your mind, your
Yeah.
spirit. They did mention, though, that if someone feels truly unable to cope alone, seeking external support, like at their center, could be really important.
Right. Sometimes you need more than just a change of scenery. But the basic idea is hitting reset, finding a calmer space to recharge.
Yes. And often this shift in environment can trigger a shift in perspective. You might start noticing simple beauty again, feel a renewed connection to life itself. They explain that feeling purposeless can often stem from a disconnection from those deeper passions, from life's simple joys, maybe because of past disappointments.
So it's like we need to consciously plug back into those things, reconnect.
Yes, exactly, to reestablish, as they put it, deep roots in life, by really appreciating, cherishing each moment.
Wow.
And the speaker shared a very, very personal story here about reaching an incredibly low point, even contemplating ending their life, but emphasizing that those thoughts were based on a totally distorted perception at the time.
That's incredibly powerful.
It is. And the point was, with renewed energy, with a shift in perspective gained by stepping away, life could be seen again as beautiful, as precious. Their strongest advice was, do not trust those negative perceptions when you're in that state. Get out, change your environment as soon as you possibly can.
That's such a vital reminder. Our state of mind literally colors everything we see. Okay, let's look at another big question. What makes me unique? What's my trait duct? How do we find our own value without constantly comparing ourselves to others?
It's a huge struggle, isn't it? Especially today. The advice was pretty direct. Consciously cut back on the external noise that fuels comparison.
Like social media, TV.
Yeah, excessive social media, TV, even the tendency to, idolize others too much. It's about quieting the outside world so you can actually hear yourself.
So less outward focus, more inward attention. What does that inner work look like?
Dedicating consistent time to self-reflection and inner cultivation, Cup, they called it. And this can take lots of forms.
Like what?
Physical practice, sports, martial arts, things that build discipline and self-awareness, but also actively cultivating inner qualities. Humility, maybe? A willingness to sacrifice for others, a genuine desire to contribute.
Okay.
And the interesting idea was that by focusing on developing these positive qualities inside, you can often unexpectedly unlock other talents, discover strengths you didn't know you had.
So by working on being a better person, essentially you might stumble upon your unique gifts.
Kind of, yeah. They suggested that sometimes the reason we can't see our own uniqueness is simply because we haven't spent enough quality time with ourselves exploring our inner world.
Hmm.
And they drew a distinction between that kind of surface confidence that needs outside approval versus a deeper, genuine self-belief rooted in, say, universal principles or ethical values.
Okay.
True values, they explain, might not be obvious right away. They take time and effort to develop, like polishing a gem to reveal its brilliance.
That's a beautiful image.
Isn't it? The key is to intentionally turn inward. Keivao ben trong kaifa. Explore and uncover what's already there.
Explore that unpolished gem within each of us. Okay, let's move to a really sensitive but critical topic. Healing from childhood trauma and how those early experiences can impact our ability to love, to form healthy relationships later on.
Yes, this is profoundly significant. The conversation really affirmed that unresolved childhood trauma has a very real, very significant impact on adult life, especially intimate relationships, marriage.
In what ways?
They describe potential patterns, like maybe becoming overly dependent on a partner, needing constant reassurance, or the opposite, maybe unintentionally inflicting emotional pain because that's what was modeled or experienced.
It sounds like those early wounds create these deep grooves, these patterns that are hard to escape on your own.
Very much so. They explain that those unmet needs from childhood for recognition, for love, that can create this persistent, often unconscious hole in our adult relationships. An insatiable void, almost. They use the term stuck data, from those early times. And this old data keeps triggering strong emotional reactions now, even if the current situation doesn't really warrant it.
Like an old computer program running in the background, messing things up.
That's a good way to think about it. These old wounds just keep getting reopened, even if we don't consciously link it back.
So what's the path forward? How do you start healing something that deep?
Self-healing is key.
Yeah.
And it often starts with learning to nurture your own inner child. Embe ton tun. That wounded part of you that still carries the pain.
Okay, the inner child.
The practice they suggested is consciously taking on the role of a loving, compassionate parent towards that part of yourself.
How does that work in practice?
When that old pain surfaces, maybe as sudden sadness or anger or fear, the idea is to observe it with kindness, with understanding, like a loving parent would attend to a crying child, offering comfort, reassurance, not judgment.
So you're essentially reparenting yourself, giving yourself the consistent love and understanding you might have missed.
Exactly that. And they pointed out common triggers for that inner child's distress. Things like being exhausted, overworked, exposed to negativity, or just dwelling too much on the past.
So when those things happen, it's extra important to turn back to self-care.
Yes. Consciously return to self-care, self-compassion. Consistent loving attention can gradually soothe that inner pain, build a sense of internal safety.
And how does something like meditation fit into this?
Meditation can be incredibly helpful here. It teaches you to observe those inner child feelings and sensations without getting totally swept away by them, without identifying as that pain.
Creating some distance.
Yes. It helps you recognize that the inner child isn't some fixed, separate person inside you. It's more like a flow of past experiences, past emotions, past data.
Okay.
The goal is to stop giving that old data the power it once had so it doesn't control your present reactions anymore.
So how does it lose its power? Through that consistent recognition, that loving attention, that gentle observation, and crucially, understanding its impermanent nature. You see it arise, you see it pass. Gradually, its grip weakens. It starts to dissolve. So it's about acknowledging the pain without judging it, offering kindness, seeing it as part of your experience but not your whole identity, and knowing it's old stuff that doesn't have to run the show now. That feels hopeful.
It is. It's definitely a journey requiring ongoing self-compassion, patience, and gentle understanding.
Wow. Well, this deep dive has certainly covered a lot of ground, hasn't it? All sparked by that one conversation.
It really has. So many interconnected pieces.
Yeah, from tuning into intuition, understanding desires, redefining success, balancing the present and future, changing habits.
Contentment versus growth, navigating fear, finding purpose, unique value.
And even starting to understand healing from past wounds, it really shows how linked all these parts of our inner lives truly are.
Absolutely. The insights from this material, they really offer a valuable kind of framework, I think, for anyone on that path of self-discovery, personal growth.
Mhm.
They really underscore how vital that inner work is, cultivating self-compassion, developing mindful presence day to day.
So, as we wrap this up, maybe here's a final thought for you listening. Which of these ideas, these insights, really resonated most strongly with where you are right now?
Good question.
And maybe what's just one small, concrete step you could take, maybe even today, to start integrating that understanding into your life?
It doesn't have to be huge.
No, not at all. Maybe it's just setting aside 5 minutes for quiet reflection, or consciously challenging your definition of success today, or just offering yourself a little more kindness when things feel tough.
Remember, it's a continuous process, right? Learning, growing.
Exactly. And we really hope this deep dive has offered maybe some helpful signposts for your own journey along the way.
May you continue your exploration with curiosity, with courage, and hopefully with an ever-deepening sense of inner peace.